of the Trinity. I take that as a metaphysical guidepost for us as to what metaphysics really is, a matter of relationships.
Yes.
Francis So from Kaohsiung University. I'd like your explication of moving between the known and unknown and using two disciplines, philology and theology. And I'm wondering, where do you locate philosophy? Is it being absorbed by philology or by merging with theology? It seems to disappear in the explication.
Yeah. Well, I think it maybe does disappear. Any discipline, any defined discipline disappears into others, the way I think of this. I think we didn't have there's another book that's somewhere in that series, A Philosophy of the Unsayable. And that, it was mentioned, I believe, in the introduction. And the title of that book, it's the right title. I've never wavered on that, but it's problematic because A Philosophy of the Unsayable is every bit as much a theology and a philology as well. I can't really settle on any one term. Each term does have to disappear into the other terms, which are also inadequate. It's in the circulation. So this is a philosophy which cannot really be founded in philosophy itself. Philosophy depends on other disciplines. Now, this is really why philosophers like Habermas will dissolve philosophy into the social sciences. I'm not very in favor of that move because that gives us another foundational discourse. Now it's the empirical sciences, that's the real foundation. But I do take the point that philosophy as self-grounding it's a form of imagination. And to be grounded in reality, it has to relate to other realities. I don't think that philosophy can remain isolated from other disciplines. It does have something to contribute, something unique to contribute. Historically, it has been the grounding discourse, right? To found everything in reason. But there's some limits to that, to whether reason really is capable of that. I would like to pursue the philosophical project all the way. With Hegel. Hegel's right. But he's not alone. There's more, history goes on. Even after Hegel, even though he's right that history ends in a certain sense when the idea, the absolute idea, comes to full realization of itself. So I think there is a tension that I fear your question is pointing to about how can philosophies be rolled over into these other disciplines. And what's being denied in my approach then is that I'm not even denying foundations. I think we have to deal with foundations and even absolutes, but there's no discourse. There's no definitive discourse, not even the discourse of philosophy. But maybe philosophy's ambition is a right one, that we should aim at some kind of grounding in absolute foundations. I do think that, but I think that any discourse, including philosophical discourse, is never going to be adequate, and that it's by partnering and dialoguing with other discourses that it can somehow make up for that deficiency.
Yes.
Thank you. This is Zhang Yinhuang from Chinese Cultural University in Taipei. Thank you for evoking this comparison between Taoism and Western Christian theology. But based on my limited knowledge on Confucianism, and as far as I know, Confucius specifically said that because we don't know that, so I want to exclude that from our discussion. Okay, so I'm wondering, how do you, take Confucianism into your discussion of this dialectics between known and unknown. And also, about Buddhism, in Buddhism, as far as I know, the question of known and unknown might not be the central issue, whereas Buddhism seems to accept the world as it is, and then consider how you can live your life through these cycles of transition and cycles of I forgot the words. Okay,
That's good. Now that makes me, I wonder about the Buddhism. Let me speak to Confucius first, because there are these statements in the Analects where Confucius turns away from the other world, the gods. Leave it alone. It's not our business. We have to construct society on some sort of a rational basis. And that has traditionally been read as a disinterest in metaphysical, speculative questions. But the corner's been turned on that interpretation. He's right to leave it outside of his discourse, because it is what by nature is recalcitrant to discourse. That's what I'm saying, is that this unknown other, you cannot bring it into discourse. Confucius is interested in producing a discourse for society, but he's aware that it's within the context of the sacred and the divine heaven. It's all there, and he honors it as what we cannot speak about. This is the sort of the new way of reading Confucius. Wolfgang Kubin is one among many researchers who are taking this line, and this is really the line that I pursue here, this apophatic paths from Europe to China. Well, what you say about Buddhism does make me think that it is fundamentally different from some of the speculative philosophies that I've been dealing with. Of course, there are different kinds of Buddhism, but to the extent that it's pragmatic, it would dissolve the kinds of speculative questions that I'm pursuing. And I'll accept that at some stage. It's the game of speculation. We don't need it. We could, kick the ladder away in Wittgenstein's image and meditate and simply be with the one, and we would be beyond then the enterprise that we're presently engaged in of thinking and cultivating our humanity's knowledge.
I was just wondering, you state that, these things are grounded in the other. Is it really grounded in the other? Or is it really grounded in our perception of the other, which may be valid, which may not be valid? We may be seeing things and presuming that this is all real, that it is a valid interpretation, and our interpretation may be erroneous.
Well, let's say it's grounded in the other as a discourse that we have constructed. We have a certain discourse about, could be a theological doctrine, the Trinity, grounded in the other. That makes it ungrounded, because the other, we don't have a discourse to ground that. So, yeah.
So in reality, our grounding is not really grounded in anything.
That's right. Yes, it's an ungrounding, really. Ungrund, from Meister Eckhart. Right, the ground is an Ungrund.
Definitely maybe.
Good. Okay, we're in agreement about that.
Professor Klaus. Yes.
Having Nick Klaus from Furen University and Peking University, having discussed the Western tradition so well in these 4 or 5 authors, whom do you plan to discuss from the Chinese tradition?
In the future?
Yes.
In the future?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I'll take some counsel and hear from some of you. The ones who have been important, it's classical Chinese thinking is really what I'm working with in this book. But there's an awful lot of contemporary Taoist, Confucianist, new Confucianist thinking that I still need to catch up with. And please do give me your counsel on where it would be fruitful for me to turn.
Okay, so because of the limit of time, I think our session must end here. This is a wonderful and also illumination talk, right? So please just join me and give Professor Franke's a big applause. Thank you. And also, thank you.